I really think like you can't separate anti-gender-based violence versus anti-colonial extraction of the land. I think there are so many things that affect us as Indigenous people that are intersected. And so I don't really think it serves us to like pick apart like focusing on human trafficking versus focusing on oil extraction versus focusing on the repatriation of like our ancestor remains. Like they're all so interconnected.
We're already like a heavily traumatized people. And so just not being able to process like the grief that's passed down to us from our ancestors and what they had to endure, it hinders us on our process to move forward. And for me, like I want to do so much things, but there's things that also stop me because of how I was raised or the things that I've been through socially and physically, and the things that I seen my grandparents go through and know about. Our grandmas will literally have the craziest, like gut-wrenching stories, and you'll never hear about them until something like blows in the wind that reminds them, and then you just hear about all the things that they've been through as women. But I was mainly raised by women growing up, and with all like aunts and aunties and grandmas, so it's like that whole age bracket, and they've lived through those certain decades. And so I grew up with all their perspectives through me, and just hearing like the things that they've been through, it lets you down, it makes you sad, and just to know what happened to them, and then also things that happened to you, and being victimized by like maybe men or just bigger forces out there. Like a lot of us, we have to heal ourselves in order to heal each other. And that's a process in itself. And I feel like that's one of the core things that we have to worry about too. Not only like if we're not healthy, how can we make the land healthy?
I think the thing that's really present for me right now that I see in the future is finding spaces for the Indigenous people in this work to have healing, care, and tenderness. Because working, especially with other young like land defenders and water defenders, there's not a lot of time to even process the trauma that's happening on the front lines while you're there. And then once you leave the front lines, there's no care for you afterwards. There's no tenderness. It's just like fight, constant survival, constant, I need to do this. And it's really falling into the colonial trap of us natives becoming martyrs and like individual symbols like, oh, this young person did all this stuff until they got burnt out and all these horrible things happened to them. So just finding ways for us as collectives to care for each other in actual real time and make sure there's spaces for tenderness and healing while we're doing the fighting, because we can't all just let each other burn out, and we can't just let ourselves become these martyrs that colonial society wants.
I feel like that was such a really good, strong topic. I'm kind of glad that came up, because that really is something, you know, people don't think about a lot. You know, you put yourself out there and you do so much, and you really don't take the time to sit back and process and heal and, you know, let that, you know, kind of give yourself time to recover so you can keep going. And I'm really glad you guys brought that up, because I think that's something I need to tell myself a lot. So I've been sitting here reflecting on that. So thank you for saying that.
Just be easier on yourself. These systems have been put in place for so long, and a lot of our formative years are, beyond our control. And we were taught this at such a young age that it takes time to process and unlearn all of these things, whether it comes to climate change, racism. I mean, everybody has to unlearn things with every system that's been put in place. And just be kind to yourself and speak kindly to others, and come at it as teaching them a different way of knowing. And that should help people come around to the sustainable way of living.
What Dante said was so important and so interesting about, opening up community spaces to help heal each other. My grandmother, the same one that was in journalism, she was part of the American Indian movement and was with everyone at the occupation of Wounded Knee in the 70s. You know, if we had had a community space then, to help them process that sort of stuff, to help them process that sort of trauma, it may have saved a lot of lives. As we move forward in this, things are going to get tougher for us. It's really important that we set things up like that so that we can help each other and help ourselves.